No, absolutely. I think certainly, the 9 years broadly has been deep transformation of the economy, governance, and all of those things that are important, because that is why the people voted Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji to power in 14 for deep decisive change. But if you just take one slice of the economy, which is electronics manufacturing, which, as you know, today after hydrocarbon constitutes the second largest globally traded commodity in the world. The total size of the electronic trade in the world is $1.7 trillion. And India in 2014 had absolutely zero presence in it. We were importing almost 82%, 83% of the fastest growing segment category, which is mobile phones. And we really had no exports of any kind to think about. And this had been through successive years of this free import from China that had, in a sense, laid waste any of these companies that were doing electronics manufacturing. From 2014 to 2022, the journey has been significantly transformational. And if you take a report card and compare 14 with 2022, you'll see that we were importing 82% with zero exports, and now we are importing 100% assembled in India. And we are exporting almost 12 to 14 billion dollars of Apple phones and Samsung phones and other phones out of India. So that has given us a tremendous confidence at a time. And look at why this investment was so important in 2015 when the Prime Minister did this. The global supply chains post-COVID, you know this, Sandeep, are changing decisively, are being redrawn. And for the first time in the history of independent India, India finds itself as an alternative, as a significant growing presence in this electronics value chain. And when Tim Cook came here recently and met me, he said himself that we are so happy and so pleased with the fact that India could respond so fast post-COVID in helping Apple ramp up its manufacturing in India. That shows that the investments and the policy decisions that were taken all the way leading up to 2021 were the right ones by Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. So I think the ambitions for India are to be a very significant player, up to 7 to 10% of share on the global supply chains of electronics by 26, and we are on our way to get there. Electronics today has created, I think in the last 3 years, almost 10 lakh direct jobs. And this is not taking into account the entire indirect job ecosystem that's created. And very importantly, in the electronics assembly business, almost 65 to 70% of those who find themselves employed are women. And these are rural women. Many cases, these are semi-urban women who are trained, skilled in this very, very high precision skill of assembling, testing, packaging, and getting the phone and the product out to global consumers. So it is creating certainly a dynamic in the workforce, creating a huge impact on employment, and those investments are directly going to create job opportunities for those who are essentially out of the jobs and workforce for many, many years. The PLI, which was really a vision of the PM, that we've got to address this so-called manufacturing competitiveness issue between India and, let us say, China or India and other countries. The PLI scheme has been a visionary scheme because it effectively incentivizes companies to produce more in India, to invest more in India, create more jobs in India. And one classic example of how the PLI is so successful is the smartphone category. Like I said, we are today $12–14 billion of exports in the current year. We are at $75–80 billion of manufacturing, and by 2026 we expect to be $120 billion of exports. So 10x almost exports between now and 26–27, and almost 4 times more in terms of sales. So PLI has been a force multiplier, a game changer, and has been a very, very important reason for the success of electronics manufacturing. I think we were at about 1 to 2, less than a percentage or almost close to zero in 2014. In 2026, in the $1.62 trillion global trade for electronics, we will be close to 10%. I think we will see that as value addition increases and as our policy is called broaden and deepen our ecosystem electronics. Currently, we are broadening our categories. We are in smartphone, we are doing IT hardware, we will do wearable hearables, and we are broadening the category. Even in China, when you manufacture and export electronics, you depend a lot on imports for semiconductors, memories, and components, etc., etc. And even that is true for India as well. But as we go down and deepen our ecosystem and create semiconductor capacity in India, component capacity in India, we think the overall value addition in India by 27, 28 will be significant enough where net exports will be more than net imports in the electronics category. So the semiconductor vision of the Prime Minister is part of this broadening and deepening the electronics ecosystem. As you know, in today's world, everything that is electronics is powered by, at the heart of it, one semiconductor or multiple of semiconductors. And so semiconductor in the post-COVID world, the concentration of semiconductor supply chains around one or two geographies, mainly North America and then Taiwan, has caused not just disruption, but caused awareness of this risk of the concentration of this kind of risk out of this concentration in these two geographies. So in 21 December, Prime Minister announced a 76,000 crore scheme, which is really a way of incentivizing companies to set up in semiconductor fabs, packaging, and design and research capabilities in India. 76,000 crores is the total outlay, and we are moving reasonably strongly ahead. We have received a lot of interest. You will see in the coming weeks a number of packaging proposals being approved. We have already approved a lot of design startups in the semiconductor design. And we think that in the semiconductor fab, while in the first round we did not see that much of interest because we kept the window open only for 45 days, that when we reopen that window, we will see significant interest in the 40 nanometer and 28 nanometer category. Look, it's not my call to comment on that, but certainly I think anybody today who is a citizen of the world and who is looking at with some amazement what is happening in Europe, who would have thought that a continent that has seen 2 world wars will walk straight back into war to resolve disputes between 2 nations. So I think we are living in certainly very different times. We are living in very challenging times. Unfortunately, there is a country that is on the rise that is seemingly conducting itself as if chaos and uncertainty is what they would prefer rather than stability, development, progress and peace, which our Prime Minister keeps advocating. So we have to be careful, we have to be cautious, we have to plan for the worst and hope for the best. For several years in the world and in India, many companies have made a business case and built their business models around misuse of personal data of people. And that misuse and exploitation was initially seen as part of innovation, and you know the Cambridge Analytica story, you know the Google story, you know the recent EU penalty of 1.3 billion euros against Meta. So there have been many companies that have in a sense built their own business around monetizing personal data or misusing it. The Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, in my opinion, is a very modern, forward-looking construct that protects consumer rights, citizen rights, allows innovation to continue to grow with all the guardrails that are required, and allows government access to personal data in emergent situations. There will certainly be a deep behavioral change in those companies that were misusing personal data. There will be certainly deep behavioral changes in companies that are all on the internet dealing with Indian citizens, and there will be punitive consequences, financial penalties of punitive nature for those platforms that violate the law. So I think we are moving into a new era, understanding and recognizing the internet intensity in our lives, and understanding the fundamental right to privacy that the Supreme Court has already ruled is the fundamental right for all Indian citizens. But at the same time, not creating a compliance regime that is so cumbersome that a 25-year-old startup who wants to innovate on the internet runs off in fear, saying that this is too much compliance. So we've made it all very, very balanced and seemingly dealt with three very, very seemingly contradictory issues in a very satisfactory modern manner. It is absolutely our mission that the boundary conditions, the principles, legislatively, rule-making wise, and it is our duty to ensure that the internet in India for our digital Nagariks remains open. By open I mean it is free from any control or domination or abuse by any big state, country or platform. We want the internet to be safe and trusted, because 120 crore Indians are going to use it. They are going to be old, they are going to be young, they are going to be students, they are going to be women, they are going to be rural, they are going to be urban. And we certainly don't want them to be on an internet where they mistrust what is being read on that, mistrust what has been put on that. So safety and trust is an absolute, along with openness and accountability, the three boundary conditions around which we intend to ensure that the Indian internet is experienced by the digital Nagarik of India. And on that we have created rules. We have created the DPDP bill, we have created the National Data Governance Policy, and soon we will be putting out for consultation the Digital India Act.